I mean, $700 for a juicer, that costs almost as much as a new fridge. The good news is this ultra portable yet mighty budget machine might be exactly what you're looking for, and it's almost half the price. So in this Nama J3 review, I'm gonna show you why this juicer gives you an amazing bang for your buck, how much juice it makes, and where it makes sense to buy this over the Nama J2. But first, let me show you what's in the box. Have you ever bought something off of Amazon only to feel like it's a cheap piece of junk from some random factory in China? Well, this isn't the case here. The J3 comes in this compact and beautiful looking packaging that feels as premium as it gets. And for all you environmentally friendly people out there, their boxes are fully recyclable with plant-based inks. You can even toss them into your compost. Opening it up, there's a start guide and a set of boxes that fit perfectly together. My first impression of the parts is that they look like a scaled down version of the J2. Some of the parts come in these nice bamboo bags. The hopper has a 34-ounce capacity, which lets you batch about 1 to 2 cups of juice at once. It doesn't come with a circular cutout on the top, which we'll talk about later. And we've got this mini stainless steel juicing screen, rubber wipers, and auger. The base has a turn knob with on-off reverse, and the machine has a 130 watt motor that spins at 50 RPMs. But don't let the size of this thing fool you. It packs plenty of torque and uses the same motor technology that's in the Nama J2. It comes with this nice set of BPA-free containers with measuring marks so you can see how much juice you're making. There's a core strainer for people who like more pulp, and you've got this brush that flips open so that you can clean tight to reach spaces. And they give you this juicing book, which looks nice, but if you want something even better, I'll drop a link to my ebook, Juicing for Beginners, in the description below, where you get 40 chef-crafted recipes that are beginner-friendly with simple ingredients. The whole thing is fact-checked by nutritionists, and over 200 people have bought it already. But enough about that. You know what I'm dying to find out? How simple this thing is to put together. Let's put some time on the clock and see how quickly we can assemble it. And there it is. It takes 18 seconds. The assembly is exactly the same as the Nama J2. There are a set of tabs that you just have to drop into the juicing chamber, and the hopper has an indicator to show you where to line up and twist. The only negative thing I have to say about this is that sometimes I have trouble twisting and getting the parts to lock into place, but after some trial and error, I found the hopper doesn't lock properly unless the auger is pushed all the way against the juicing chamber. After that, it was smooth sailing. But since this machine is half the size and almost half price of all the high-end machines out there, there's gotta be a catch, right? Well, let's put it to the test and see how it performs. We're gonna make one of my favorite juice recipes from my ebook. This is called the Healthy Gatorade, and it's only 3 ingredients. We've got celery, cucumber, and pineapple. Gatorade has tons of processed sugar like high fructose corn syrup and sucrose. But this uses pineapple as a sweetener, which contains natural sugar and is high in vitamin C, manganese, and bromelain. Bromelain is an enzyme with anti-inflammatory benefits, and I personally love this juice because it's much fewer calories than a Gatorade and it's more hydrating and tastes 10 times better. It's the perfect substitute for sugary drinks and those who are trying to watch their weight. You can load whole fruits and vegetables like apples into the J3, but it's got a smaller hopper. So if we prep our fruits and vegetables into smaller sized pieces, we can fit more produce into the hopper and make more juice. Let's flick the switch and give it a go. Time to lift up the juicing cap. So right now we're at about 1.5 cups of juice, but if we want to make more, all you have to do is pop open the lid and add a second batch. After removing the auger and looking inside the chamber, we can see some celery trapped inside, but this happens with the full-size juicers too. After running a squeeze test on the pulp, we've got some drips, but to be honest, I didn't have any high expectations for this. Cucumber and celery are 2 of the most trickiest vegetables to juice due to their high water content and mushiness. Even the full-size machines struggle with these types of produce. You can always take the pulp and rerun it through the machine to get more juice. Rerunning the pulp through the juicer gave me an extra half cup of juice on this one. So let's give it a try. Yeah, you can't beat that. And if you're thinking about getting the J3, I'll leave a link in the description where you can get the best discount on this thing. Now, the one thing that kind of bummed me out about the J3 is that it can't make sorbets right now. I'll update the description if they release an add-on in the future, but you can make so many other cool things with this. I made these anti-inflammatory curcumin juice shots that taste better than Coca-Cola. The sky's the limit, but there's one massive problem here. you're not getting the full picture. I get a lot of comments about specific ingredients like how does it do with ginger? What about celery? How dry is the pulp on the oranges? So I actually spent more than $4,000 and 37 hours testing all the best juicers on the market with celery, ginger, oranges, and leafy greens. And I promise I'm gonna show you those exact results so you can see how this juicer compares to the rest. But before I reveal the numbers, we have to talk about something that everyone loves to complain about. Let me ask you something. Are you someone dealing with stabbing lower back pain and a stiff neck and bad posture, even achy joints from arthritis? Then the last thing you need is a juicer which forces you to hunch your back over the sink with icy water splashing on your arms as you dig out pulp from every tight space with a cleaning brush for 15 minutes. So let's put some time on the clock and see just how easy or not the J3 is to clean. And there it is. You can clean it from start to finish in just 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Now, the J3 wasn't the easiest juicer I've cleaned, but it's faster than the J2 thanks to the parts having less surface area. Now, as promised, I want to show you how this juicer stacks up against other machines in the yield department. For celery, I measured 6 ounces. We'll go ahead and dump that into the hopper. These are about the same size chunks that I put into the J2. The blades are slicing those up like nobody's business. And that turned out to be 127 milliliters of juice. Let's strain the pulp. And here's the squeeze test. Next up is 1.3 ounces of ginger. We'll toss that into the hopper, close the lid, and get it running. The J3 does a good job of processing these small chunks, but it looks like some juice is leaking out of the pulp ejector. Not sure if that's from the juicer being wet. That 1.3 ounces of ginger turned into 21 milliliters of juice. Let's check out the sieve. And here's the squeeze test. Next up is 8.5 ounces of oranges. Let's load them up and see how it does. It turned out to be light work for the J3, and we've got 160 milliliters of juice. Time to strain it. And here's the squeeze test. For leafy greens, I used 2 ounces and then dumped it into the hopper. Leafy greens are tricky. They usually take longer to juice, but that gave me 27 milliliters. We'll go ahead and strain the pulp. And here's the squeeze test. After running each test, here's the final scorecard. Look at how impressive this is. The J3 is half the size, but the yield numbers compared to the J2 were staggeringly close in almost every category except for ginger. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was worried about how long I could continuously juice with the J3, but according to the manual, you can run it for 30 minutes of continuous use, and I feel like I pushed this machine to its limits, and the good news was there was no burning smells and there was no signs of it getting hot. But there were some things that I didn't like about the J3, which you definitely need to hear about. Let me tell you about my first week with the J3. I'm in my kitchen one morning, I'm making some fresh juice. I go to take the hopper apart and it's stuck on the juicing chamber like it's been cemented on. I'm not talking about little stuck, I mean literally I'm wrestling with this thing like it owes me money. Both hands grip tight, my arm shaking, veins popping out from my forehead, and suddenly it comes off. And as soon as I got the lid off, I nearly stumbled backwards into my fridge, and for a second, my heart sank thinking that I might have just broke my new juicer. Turns out there's actually a simple fix. Just give it a quick clockwise twist and then go counterclockwise. Boom, slides right off like butter. At first, I thought it was a deal breaker, but once I figured this out, it wasn't really an issue anymore. The second issue is that sometimes pulp can almost create a tight seal between the auger and the juicing screen, making the auger harder to kind of pull out. But once again, this didn't happen that often, so it wasn't a huge deal breaker for me. So disassembly was the first con. But another quirk about the hopper that nobody talks about, unlike the J2, the J3 doesn't have that cutout in the top where you can put in more produce while the machine's running. Instead, you have to open the lid, pause, and add your ingredients that way. If you want to make more than 1 cup of juice, you'll find yourself doing this a few times. It does add about an extra 1 to 2 minutes per batch, and it's not a deal breaker, but it would be nice if Nama put a cutout in the top so that we could speed things up. And if you care about speed, here's another thing that might slow you down. The J3 packs a punch, but due to its size limitations, you can overwhelm it. I've put whole apples into this thing and it works no problem, and I've also put whole carrots as well, but you can tell that it's just not as powerful as the J2, and sometimes huge pieces of hard root vegetables can clog it. Overall, it's going to take you longer to make batches of juice with the J3 versus the high-end full-size juicers. But there are some things you can do with the J3 that are almost impossible to do with the J2. If you're a minimalist, jet setter, camper, van lifer, or someone living in a dorm, apartment, or city, I think you'll absolutely love this. The J3 weighs 9.7 pounds, and to put that in perspective, it's like carrying a couple textbooks. If you want to take it with you on a plane or train, you can easily fit it in a carry-on or your backpack. I managed to fit the J3 inside this bag, and even if you have no plans of traveling with the J3, this thing is going to look great on your countertop. It's so compact that you can probably just leave it next to your coffee maker. But this next pro sort of shocked me, and it might shock you too. For being half the size of the J2, the yield is pretty darn impressive. For a portable travel machine, this thing gets really dry pulp, and it does a phenomenal job of filtering pulp out of your juice. A cheap piece of junk machine off of Amazon can't hold a candle to this thing, which leads me to the next thing that I liked about this juicer. If you're someone who's a beginner, maybe you're on a budget, or you want to get this as a gift for your mom or daughter, this feels like a great introductory machine. It even comes with a 15-year warranty on the motor and the parts, so if anything happens down the line, you've got complete and total peace of mind. It's cheaper than the J2 and at times more convenient. On the days where I couldn't be bothered lugging out a full-size juicer, this thing comes in clutch. With that said, it's not perfect, and you gotta set some realistic expectations. You can't make large batches like you could with the J2 or toss massive chunks of hard produce into it, but the J3 makes up for that with price, performance, portability, and convenience. If you wanna save money, I'll leave a link in the description below with the best discount on the internet, and if you're still not sure if you should buy the J3 or the J2, click this video.